Ah. Emily. Who's in the back that I don't recognize? Mike, who's your new friend? Luca? Okay. Domenico, right?
Domenico, but close enough.
Domenico. Like the Dominican Republic.
Not quite, but
That's the only way I'm gonna remember it.
you call me Dom. That's easy.
Okay, I'll call you Dom.
That's fine.
John K. No? Lucas M. Okay. You're John K. Robert what? Oh, that's right. The one who's getting tired of remote classes with me, right? No, but you had that brutal 37-27 online, and now like, what did we have? 3 Zoom or Teams classes? Emily knows. Once I remember your name, and Mike's wife and Mike, once I remember your name, I'll see you in like 10 years. And, hey, how are you? But you're another one. Mark, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like soccer guy. What's soccer guy? Crap. How about Trent Williams out 4 to 6 weeks? Meanwhile, you got Columbus playing left and right and still winning. Yeah, probably done around 7. JavaScript, which is basically based in Java. Java jabronis, okay. So do you know Java or just Python? So I gave you Damon's favorite person's slides for classes and objects, control statements, classes, which we've basically talked about when we went through CSS, right? Primitive types. And then there's a 2-hour video that basically teaches you everything you need to know about Java. So Luca, do you know Java? Aren't you like the one who's a computer science major? Okay. So if anybody gets stuck tonight and I'm kind of looking at my phone about other stuff, Luca's the go-to guy for today's class and the 17th when we discuss JavaScript. So this is on Blackboard, but it's also in the post on the blog for 10.3. And it's kind of more organized. For some reason on Blackboard, it doesn't give you the normal size for the video. The other thing I wanted to point out, so we've been using this WYSIWYG and everything. So that site has actual like breakdown for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, Python, Java, PHP, and a couple other things. So on the helpful links, I just popped that up. So like if you wanted to, Click JavaScript, it opens. And then let's see if there's anything. So like Java if else. So this is going to be a, simple working with JavaScript for Luca. All right, so some basics. Who remembers what we used for CSS? What tag? Billy? Style tag, yep. Who remembers what the file extension was if we used external CSS? Damon, do you remember? .css, yep. So JavaScript is a little different. It's .js if you put it in an external file. And instead of style, because CSS cascading style sheets, JavaScript is the script tag everything goes inside, assuming you were putting it inside of the HTML. So the reason I kind of wanted to give you guys some background on Java was JavaScript is based on functions, which all derive from Java. So the primary thing is like if statements, or if a condition is met. So like you learned with the 3727, the crazy if statements in Excel. Basically, you can run them in programming languages too. I'm bored down. What is JavaScript like? Like Java, uses functions. Like as you said, right? The difference is, however, so Luca, what compiler did you use with Java? BlueJ, Eclipse? Eclipse? So with regular Java, the programming language, it's compiled. Whether you use Dr. Java, BlueJ, Eclipse. What did Rosenthal have you do with Python? What you did? Who's the one who had Python? You have it with Rosenthal now? God. minus 2. You spelled Rosenthal wrong. No, he's very nitpicky with the stuff. Yeah, he's kind of nitpicky with the points. So what compiler do you use? Idle? So basically, any programming language, you will have a compiler. Back in the day, anybody know C++? Just Luca and Nicole, of course. So we used to use MS-DOS to compile that. So basically, each programming language has its own compiler, usually. With JavaScript, it's just like HTML, like the browser interprets it. So I kind of give the example, HTML is like your house. CSS is like the junk you put on, to decorate it on the outside, or maybe even the inside. JavaScript is kind of like your appliances, like your oven, your mixer, your fridge, your microwave. Can everybody see that? Or should we turn the lights down a little? Everybody's good? It's easy to see. So basically, instead of referencing in the same way as a CSS file externally, you would use script source equals script.js. Let's see. we have any on our beloved. Nice, LaRousse is gone. Now the White Sox can get a real manager. A bunch of meta. He's too out of touch with the way baseball's played now. What's the guy they fired that went to the Cubs? Renteria? I don't think they ever should have got rid of him. Especially with the players they have now. They're good, but they need somebody. Lots of teams need bullpens. And eventually Kopech will be injury-free. So in ESPN, see here? Rob, what does that say? Okay, Rob, can you see it? He answered, go to him. But he can't see it. He doesn't have his glasses. Nicole, turn the lights down, please. Maybe that'll help. Now can you see? What is that? That's JavaScript that we're learning tonight, right? So, you know, I'm not like crazy. It's actually on the ESPN website. Remember we did all this with CSS, you know, the link rel. I'm trying to see if they have a, there it is. So see here, script source, the link, and then, like I told you guys, a lot of times you'll have a folder for each one, like CSS, all the CSS files are in its own. All the JavaScript files are in its own. So that's in the JavaScript file called ESPN-head.js. We finally got an example from ESPN that shows us what we want to look at. Who was the one who asked me the question about div last week? Nobody here? Okay. So div is like a divider. Like a couple of you were missing a div and everything was screwed up in your dropdown. So that's why, because it's a divider, you have to match your divs. Basically used to break up different sections within an HTML file. Well, we haven't gone over span, have we? No. Span basically does the same exact thing. You know, you'd have the little caret, span, caret, and then you'd close it. The difference is, though, div automatically breaks up your paragraphs or whatever you're putting in between. Span, you have to use attributes associated with it to do the same thing. What's client-side code execution mean? Anybody know? No? Emily, what's client-side code execution? You're unsure? Client-side code execution. So take it piece by piece. What's client-side? Yeah, you're client-side. Then there's server-side, which is what's on the other end. So what's the code execution part? Yeah, so JavaScript, and I believe we'll see this tonight. We're gonna set up like a web page. It's kind of gonna be interactive. We'll have a little pop-up show up. I think we'll also look at cookies. I don't think we're gonna get into Ajax in this class, maybe just a little slide or two tonight, but that's another thing that JavaScript works with. So here's a little example of a JavaScript. All we're doing is printing out our first JavaScript. So raise your hand if you've done Python. How would you, you're not raising your hand. Yeah, didn't you have Bill for Python?
I can't.
How do you how do you print out a statement in Python? Print. So it's basically the same thing. Luca, is Java still print line? Is Java still print and then ln for the printout? Okay. So again, just like CSS, instead of putting it all in one file, like how big was this ESPN file? Like see how you can see on the side, it's like huge. If you want to use it over and over again, you could put it in a .js file and refer to it externally. Now our examples, we're going to do it internally just because, like I said, some of our stuff is a little smaller, shorter, not as big as that ESPN page. So slide 6, let's look at our basic example provided here. Put in our WYSIWYG and let's see what we get. What do you think's going to happen, Nicole? So that button we just created is what's called an on-click. And somewhere I have an example from my old site. You could just click a button and it would let you change the size based on whatever you wanted me to do. So what happens when you click me, Nicole? Did anything happen? No. Because our on-click isn't really set up to do anything. It's just defining a function. So again, you see this here? Script source equals wherever your .js file is. So this one is example stored on the w3schools.com site. So here's how a function works if it's being called in Java. Function, my first function, alert, our test works. How would you write that in Python, Damon? Bill didn't teach you any of this? So what does an on-click do? Basically, it lets you change things on the fly. Like it gave you the example on my old website, you could just click a button and it would change the font back and forth like you feel like it. You might be able to do an on-click that shows you time, date, might let you change language. Actually, ESPN might actually do that. Maybe, no. No. What's the other thing you guys always obsess with? Cool math games? So like this would be an on-click. Go ad free. You can click that and all the ads would disappear. Hopefully that's a good example. So let's try another one. Slide 9. as code for the other on-click example. So what is this now gonna do? Anything? It makes 3 buttons. Did any of them work? No. What are they supposed to do if this was on an actual website? Take you to that page. What page? Whatever it is. So we have this on an actual website. When you click change the div value, it will ask you for an input. So let's say it's 5. Let's say your actual website has the div value set to 2. This is going to make bigger spaces in between all your paragraphs or wherever you have that div tag set up. It'll do it in the first instance. If you click change the entire document, it'll do it for the entire page. So then you would click change the div value back in order to return it to that 2 div value. I'm going to copy this into the WYSIWYG because you guys can't see it on the screen. But here's how it would look like JavaScript. So did Rosenthal teach you any of this yet? To create functions? No? I don't know what he's going to teach. Because he gave Bill all the, oh, here's what I teach. And David says he didn't teach anything. So. That makes sense. Like he's teaching IT 300 right now at Monmouth University, which is supposed to cover Visual Basic, which nobody's really used in like 15 years other than certain teachers at Middletown North High School. So he was like, yeah, I'm going to pretend to show them how to make a web browser and then just teach them PHP the rest of the semester. Like, okay. So what is the function doc change doing? Think of print. Go ahead, yeah. Okay. So what is the div change back doc function doing for us? It's going to look within your HTML file, wherever you have the div, and return it to whatever you had it set up. So I gave the example as 2. The first one lets you change it. So first, it's finding what the actual div value is, and then it's allowing you to change it. So let's see what our next on-click examples got us doing. So this one is pulling in CSS as well to show you the difference. You know, the link href, script source. So what would this do? Does the button actually work? Or did the WYSIWYG screw up again? So by looking at this, what do you think this would allow us to do? Okay. The button, if it was live, would switch between the style sheets. So I'm assuming styles.css has the header as blue text the paragraph as red text and the background for the entire page as, what would you say, that's powder blue, Mark? If this was live and you click the switch style button, it should then switch to whatever is in the styles2.css. So that might be like yellow text, purple background. Mark, who snuck in behind you? What? Garfield? Okay. The other one is just black and white. You uploaded it to Courses? So you took this out and then ran it? So there may not be anything in that styles too, because the button doesn't work, so. Did he teach you between true and false? Booleans, did he teach that? Kyle, you had Bill too? Did you like him? Heyman didn't seem to like it. Did he use his own like website that basically got him fired from Brookdale? So he taught a year at Brookdale as a full timer. And apparently he would let students just take the class online if they felt like it. And all the students complained about that, whatever it is, Byrne University and the department chair, and he got in a fight about it. He ended up leaving after spring 2020. No, spring 2021. Where was I? So what is this function doing, Damon? Did Bill teach you switching? No? Why not? Did he teach, what? I think he's on his way to the pool hall. David wants to know why you didn't teach if-else statements. He said he wouldn't, then he did. Who already had Rosenthal for Python? Did he teach if-else statements? I thought you just have him now. You already did it like a month into the semester? That sounds like the VBA exam. That, what was his name? Got like the highest score with a 63? The soccer kid? Okay. So Emily was very excited about the 37-point curve. So in an if-else statement, you have this condition. If it's not met, else, the other thing happens. So if style default is not disabled, else disable style default. And it's switching to style mobile. So what would this be an on-click for? Any ideas? I think I gave you the example. Monmouth University changed their faculty listings. And if you have it on your phone, if you click somebody's profile, they want you to, it has you call that number. So this on-click would basically set it to where if you're accessing it on your laptop, it looks one way. If you're accessing it on your phone, it will look another way. So it's mobile friendly. So you know a little bit about Java? So how do you write Java code? In a block, yeah. Good thing I put it in the slide. Me too. And that was much longer ago. No, technically no, my undergraduate. But that was still a while ago. So Luca, what's the point of functions? Why do we make them? Yeah, and we could use them repeatedly as we need to. You know, we could take, say we have a function that adds numbers. We could take that and put it in another area of code. Say we want to subtract numbers. We just make a minor, not correction, change to the new code. So the function syntax is function, whatever you name your function, the parentheses, bracket, then you put your function inside it. Python doesn't have to end with a semicolon, right? So Java, just like HTML and JavaScript, ends with a semicolon. So here's an example down the bottom. Function, my addition function, AB. What are AB, Nicole? X and Y? What are they? Look at the next line. What do you think A and B are? So what do we add? Do we add colors? Numbers. So this is basically going to ask us for two numbers and then return whatever they are added together. You did comments in Python, or Bill didn't teach you that either? No. You did what? Oh, okay. So slash is just for one line, if you want to make it a comment. Slash, then the asterisk, you start wherever your comments are. So say it goes 18 lines. Then you put the close, the reverse of it, asterisk slash at the end of that, and it makes all of that block text a comment. So what is this document dot? What is that? Does it say after document second line? It's an object. Just like Java, JavaScript can rely on objects. So document.getElement by ID, myID.innerHTML equals some string. What is that doing? Emily, question? No, this is something you would put inside of an HTML page in your JavaScript section, your script tags. Well, what it would be looking for is anything within that file, my ID. And instead of shooting out some string, it will actually give you a string. So the document.get is going to find something for you. So I give the example here. Going to find whether it's paragraph, div, span, change the value. So if you have your div ID is my ID, it'll change the text to whatever string you may want. Variables. Var foo. What is that? What does var foo mean? You have no idea? Patrick, what is var foo? Var foo. That's a great question. Thank you. Trying to butter me up so we end early, huh? What is var short for? Variable. So we're creating some variable foo. That's the letter A. Var foo, variable foo. So then what's var bar? Another variable. That one's called bar. But JavaScript has no types. So in Python, what do you have? Int, string. Do you have float? Float, Boolean, just like Java. JavaScript, no, doesn't work that way. So you'd set everything as var, and what you basically equal it as tells, okay, well, this is sort of an int, this is sort of a string kind of deal. So what is this code doing? Var my var. Var x equals 1, var y equals 2, var z equals x plus y. So what is var z going to be? Damon? 3. 1 plus 2. So what is var x equals test? Var y equals string. Give you in var z, x plus quote plus y. Damon again. Yep. So this little quote has a basic. That's the whole point of it. Is this true in Python? You can only use a variable that you create within a function in that function? I don't remember. I haven't used Python in 4 or 5 years. So in Java, see this var, my local var? I can't use that outside of the function I just created. It can only be used in that function because that's where I'm creating it. Is it true in Python? Okay. I hope it's not like VBA where, okay, we set it up here to be something, but then down here, it's changed to 8 other things. So JavaScript operators are just like Java. Plus adds things together, subtraction, multiplication, divide. Plus plus is an increment. Adds 1 to whatever your number is. Minus minus does the opposite, subtracts 1. And then you see the others, equals equals, exclamation point equals. Just like most of you learned from me in what, BITM 2701? Same thing can be done in Java and JavaScript. Then slide 20 has some more that we'll probably never use, but they're there for you. So if statements. What does this basically say, Emily? Yeah, what does basically this say? If else. Yep. So think back to Excel. You do an if function, right? So you're testing something. If it's true, you give one answer. If it's false, you give another answer, right? That is what in programming and if else basically does. If something, okay, give that answer. Otherwise, so if Billy is going to graduate in December, he might get pizza the last day of class. Otherwise, no pizza for Billy. Simple? Yes? Anybody see that? So what is this telling us? Mark, you want to guess? Okay.
First name variable. Then it'll execute. That fourth line. Then there's actually another if, so I guess if it equals that condition, then it's gonna act. Then it's gonna trigger that.
So what's this doing? It goes in your file. If you have a variable first name or last name, it's going to ask you to input your first and last name and then spit it out back to you. So say you go to a website, if it finds that, what's your name? And you'd put in Mark, how do you say your last name? Wallier?
Yeah.
And it would spit that out. That's what that last part does. Oh, I have 2 slides on Ajax. So Ajax is just asynchronous JavaScript and XML. We're going to talk about XML later in the semester. Basically, XML is where you would like store data. Kind of boring, and that's why I jam it in with other stuff like JSON. So what does asynchronous mean, Damon? Your class with Bill was probably asynchronous, or at least you felt like it, like you were doing everything on your own. So what's the difference between an asynchronous online and a synchronous online class? You meet for a synchronous class, like at a certain point in time. Asynchronous, there's no meeting, right? It basically can do it, whenever. It's in the background, whatever may be happening. The common use is XML HTTP request. The built-in JavaScript object that sends requests for XML using JavaScript. Basically, you're just retrieving data from that XML file. So you can use the method get or post. Usually you want to get things. Like you get the data from the XML file. What do you think post is going to do? Mike? What do you do when you post, what's the thing you kids use these days? Well, I know Instagram, the one with a V. Visco, is that it? Say you're putting something on Visco, what happens? Oh. Thank you, Emily. So that's basically what post does. It's going to now add something to your XML file, whereas the get just retrieves it for you. And here's some other ones like response text, response XML. Okay, now the fun stuff. Cookie. Did you bring any? You brought coffee and no cookies. You made some last night. What good does that do us now? We want cookies. Who knows what a cookie is on a web browser, basically? Did Bill teach you that? No? What did Bill teach you? Tuples? Like how to read and write to files?
You really.
Oh, yeah, Spanish.
Really hard to learn. You have to learn.
When I taught Python at Rowan in 2020, all they had us do was editing text and images. But I kind of understood it was they call it Intro to Scientific Programming. It's like a freshman level class for people that have no background in programming. So you can't really get too involved. But it sounds like that class was more involved than yours. He's back at Monmouth now, and he'll probably be there till he retires, so you don't really have to try anymore, so. Dom, do you know what a cookie is on a computer? Okay. Yeah. That's about all you know? What does a cookie do? Mike's wife, what does a cookie do? Okay. What does that mean in layman's terms? Why are you laughing? You don't know the answer, or you don't know why you're laughing? Yeah. So you ever gone to Amazon? Who has an Amazon account? Only about half of you? Okay. Who has a Facebook account? Okay. So let's say you go on Facebook and Patrick's talking to Kyle about, how bald I am, and, I need like uh, a razor to, pick my head or something. What do you think's going to happen the next time they go on their Facebook page? This is going to see an ad. Same thing on Amazon. You go and let's say Mark buys. You're not a goalie, are you? So let's say he buys soccer cleats. The next time he goes on there, there may be a bunch of crap for like Mizuno and all this other like soccer related stuff. Because it's, I guess the best term, remembering your information. It might also take like your IP address. Well, what's the major point of a cookie? Other than to feed me because I'm hungry. If you go back to the website again, it makes it load quicker. Okay, we recognize this person. We don't need a certificate to accept their being here. We could just load it. So with inside a cookie, you could have a name, a value, when it expires, where it is, which is the path, the domain, whether it's encrypted or not, secure, but only small amounts of data get stored in there. So that's why, like Dom said, you want to clear them because they take up space on your computer too. Nicole, go on your, what do you have, Google Chrome? It wants me to update. I don't want to update. I don't think I've cleared these in a while. Do I want to? What is that? Is that what I'm talking about? So you can block them, clear them, whatever you want to do. But if you block them, what happens? Did Bill teach you that? What happens when you clear your cookies or block them? Give me one or the other. Yep. So when you clear them, it takes forever to load it again because they're basically shaking your hands again. They're meeting you for the first time. Bill, what do you think happens when you block the cookies? You might have to ask again, okay? Some of the things on the website may not load properly, like it'll load slow, pictures may not pop up. So that's why a lot of web browsers have the incognito function. You can go through that and it won't necessarily block the cookies, but it's not going to download them to your computer. So setting a cookie, what kind of cookies did you make? Chocolate chip? The Pillsbury Ghost ones. Are those tasteless sugar ones? Okay, so we have our set cookie function here. Kyle, what do you think this is doing? You're not sure. We're creating a cookie, setting a name, value, and expiration date. So what does this mean? Expires.setDate, expires.getDate, plus expires days. What is that doing? What's today? October 3rd. So that would be our expires.getDate. It would put in the cookie today's date. What do you think the second part is? Expires days. When it expires. So it could be set for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So that would basically tell the cookie, okay, 30 days from now, got to give them a new cookie. Other times, if you go to a website a lot, like ESPN, it may have a shorter period. Like it may have to clear the cookie out like 2 or 3 times a week because you go to it so much. And there's basically all of that in words. You'd also set date if you wanted to, when you create your own cookie. So how do we get a cookie? Well, you asked Nicole nicely, and hopefully she'll make it. My crap because of all the bullets. But you guys get the point. So we're now finding where that cookie is and providing our information to it. Is basically all that is to it. We're getting a cookie. So let's try some of our functions. We're going to have a little test here. What does this function do? Rob, we have a function called myWhile function, setting A and B. Variable I equals 1. Variable counter equals 1. While counter less than or equal to B. I equals I times A. Counter plus plus. Return I. What does that do? It's going to return I, right? And how many times is it going to go? If we make the A 2 and the B 8, how many times is it going to go? Look at the while loop. See how it says counter less than or equal to B? So how many times is it gonna go if B is 8? Two times? That's your answer, 2 times? It's going to run 8 times. It's going to keep going because B is 8. And I has to go until it's, or the counter rather, has to keep going until it's greater than 8. Once it hits 9, then it stops. So counter starts at 1. The plus plus makes it go 1 up each time. So the first time counters 1. Second time counters 2. Third time counters 3. And so on and so forth for the 8. So why is I equal to 256? Remember, A is 2. Phil. Yep. So basically, it's what? What's that thing we put at the top? Like, yeah, it's basically like an exponent. So what is that? 2 to the 8th? Is that right? Sounds right. So we'll go with that. All right, like I said, XML works with JavaScript. Cookies store a small amount of data. The expiration function can set the expiration date. And cookies are available in the same directory the cookie was created in. So if you create it in, let's say, a CSS folder, that's where the cookie goes. I don't know if XML will work on the WYSIWYG, but let's try. You tried this already, Nicole? Actually. So this is basically what's called an XML tree. So in XML, I have all this data stored. So book list is my XML file. Then I have the title, the author, and the price within it. So, you know, the book title is Jurassic Park. The author is Michael Crichton. The price is $5. So basically, that's what XML does. So this body onload show data, if this actually worked in the WYSIWYG, would show the data for the address book XML file that I may have. So you could literally set up a HTML file that just spits out random XML or JSON data. Here's what you would have inside your JavaScript, your .js file. Just a function that tells the show data, or the show data function rather, that basically tells it what to do. So what are concerns with cookies? Other than they might be too hot, not taste good, expired, maybe. That could be another issue. Lucas, any guess? Okay. What's the second bullet point? Did Bill teach you that? SQL injection? No? So say you have a cookie up on your server. Probably the second easiest way to hack a website, if they know that cookie's there and it's out of date and you don't really check, Because they could inject basically, malware, other issues into it. What's the most basic one? Especially now, to basically inject malware or issues into a web server, website. Kyle, you look like you know. No? WordPress plugins that are out of date. So let's see if this one actually works. Here's another example of an on-click that should give you the date and time. Nicole, did this work? So what happens, who hasn't been called on? Austin. What happens when I click me to display date and time? It shows the date and time. Is it correct? Why is the bell ringing a minute late? What does GMT mean? Isn't it Greater Mountain Time? So that's correct then, right? The second changes every time you click it too. Okay, Nicole. What is demo here? Our class. So I gave you the example at the start of class, right? HTML is like the house. CSS is like the stuff you use to decorate it, like the outside and the inside. The JavaScript is kind of like your appliances, like an oven or fridge. So here's kind of it in, more jargony terms. HTML defines the content of web pages. CSS specifies the layout. JavaScript programs the behavior. Here we have another example of an on-click. Does this one work, Nicole? So what is this going to do? Is it right? Does this one update every second? Okay. Nicole gave us a nice little trick. And here's another on-click example giving more times. This is kind of the basic what an on-click would do. But did you notice the difference with this one? Rob, you can see. Did you notice the difference with this? The time becomes a button. Button, who's got the button? You click on the button now. It no longer says the time is, but it still gives you a little trick Nicole pointed out. It'll update every second. So there's some common elements: on change, on click, on mouse over, on mouse out, on key down, and on load. I think the one we're doing momentarily is on mouse over. But I basically showed you what, 5 examples of on click? Did Bill teach you arrays, booleans, math class, random class, objects, functions, or assignment requirements? Why not? Teaching stuff. Okay? So my speakers are muted. Can the online kids even hear me? That's no good.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, excellent. So there's a JavaScript community here. You could go ask them questions. I'm sure you're, thinking like, I want to learn more about the onboard. What's the onboard? They have a community and everything else available to you. So there's this other thing in Java called JSP, which stands for Java Server Pages. It's compiled on servlets, and it's server side. So what does that mean? Nobody? I put Robert to sleep. What is server side? It's stored on that web domain, that web server. So it's running basically in the background, if you will. The primary function is to render content. So the servlet processes your Java server page. So instead of .js, it would be .jsp. I still have helpful links up. No. So there's also .asp. So you see here, it's default .asp. That's an Apache script. Allows for embedding of Java code directly into the JavaScript using. What does that mean? There were like a couple people that didn't have the div, matching the div for the dropdown last week. And it like showed up completely crazy, all because you didn't have like one little div. So if you put JavaScript and Java code in just a regular HTML file, it's not going to look nice because it's not going to know what to do. But if you save it as the Java server page, okay, this might have Java in it. Let's go through and calculate the Java. But you have to have Tomcat installed on that server for that to work properly. So what is a servlet? Other Patrick? So who's ever had Java installed on their computer? Just a couple of you? The little box that comes up and like has a coffee cup and the like red line that like loads. That's basically what this is. And you'll be happy to know that I took out model view controller from this class that Mark Nazaro had. It was very boring. You just go through the little table. No point in spending 2.5 hours on that because this exciting stuff is making you guys tired. Or maybe it's the lights. So they both work together, like I said, to basically compile that Java code so that you don't have to put it in an HTML file and it actually works. So there's active server pages, there's pure servlets, there's server side includes. We can go through and look and see all the differences there. So there's some status codes you could set up. Public void set status, public void send redirect, public void send error. So what do you think those three do? Dom, what do you think set status does? Can you read what it actually says? So who's been to a website and like it gives you an error? Like, well, did it list the number for the error? What numbers have you seen? Patrick? 404, okay. Kyle, have you seen one? Damon, have you seen a different one? 87, okay. .502. Any other one? 606. You're the Dominic, right? 606. At least it wasn't 666, right? What do you think a redirect does? Public void send redirect. Yeah, or in some cases, it may send you, like one of my clients transports motorcycles. And basically, he only really makes money with Sturgis because he does like a month-and-a-half long tour, but he has 2 domain names. One, I don't waste server space putting anything on there. I just have a send redirect. It just sends it to the other page where everything's stored. And the send error would be like you guys just mentioned, like the 404, the 502, which is kind of like a timeout. You might have a slow internet. There's some applications of Servlet you can read through, but here's it visually. To the client side, that's you on the browser. You send in a message, you get a response back. The response that comes back is from the server. So when you go to a page, like let's say you go to espn.com/ well, let's actually do it. espn.com/Rob. Let's see if Rob has a page here on ESPN. What do you think? You think Rob's got a page on ESPN or no? No? Emily, do you have one? No? They don't have softball on ESPN? They do, just not Seton Hall? So what kind of error is that? Of the numbers you all just threw out? That's a 404 error. Couldn't find the page we're looking for. They don't even have college soccer on here. What a
It's
horrible.
under the NCAA men's, NCAA women's.
NASCAR?
No luck.
That?
Probably still on that side. I would-
This looks like it's for men's basketball. So Mark, what happens when I click your page? It'll show your bio. Not a 404 error? I passed it?
Number 22.
22. So he clicked Mark. He's got a nice little bio that comes up. When you click historical, it shows like pictures of him when he was younger. No, yes, it does. It'll just show you past pictures. Moments gives a little videos of him. You look pretty much the same. Let's see, Emily, is it okay if we find you? What number? What's your number? What? You're not playing this season? Why? In December? So they won't let you play? Did you use all 4 years? But you got bigger fish to fry, right? Same thing when we click Emily's. It's not going to disappear just because she's not playing this year, because they have it set up for each year. Did not see game action in 2021. On a lot of things. 2020 played in 11 games. You guys actually had a season? When did it start? So you kind of get the thing. We go to the server to get this information about, Emily's awesome softball stats and Mark's pictures from yesteryear. Has anybody learned Enit in any programming language? So Enit is basically to initialize. So it's a set function, if you will. So it can initialize a connection between you and the server. What would destroy do? What do you think destroy would do to that connection? Rob? Destroy. What happens when you log out of your Facebook account? What happens when you log out of your Facebook account? Yeah, you're logged out. You're no longer connected to Facebook, right? So that's what the destroy function does when you're connected to a server. Okay, you've basically, your connection's done. It's destroyed. You're disconnected. It's over. And slide 54 goes through the servlet life cycle. You initialize and destroy and do stuff in between. GUI. Who knows what a GUI is? Robert, do you know what a GUI is? No? Did you make GUIs in high school? How about in your little club? No? Patrick? Graphic user interface. Dom, what does that mean? Anybody ever seen a GUI? GUI. GUI. Basically. No, I don't want to know what GUI is. I want examples. Did Bill teach you how to make GUIs? So like Dom said, it's basically, pop up, some of them can look nice and fun. Some of them will let you do stuff. Actually, cool math game might happen. Is Melody Shuffle loud? That's basically a GUI. Your game loading, wherever it comes up, that's a graphic user interface that you play that game on. So if you copy the notes section of slide 56, you can create a multiplication table if you so choose. How many rows for our multiplication table? Garfield. How many rows do you want? 2? So it's just going to do 2 by 2. Actually, it's going to ask us for the other columns. Nicole, columns. We have a 2 by 4 multiplication table. And what do you notice in this code? What's in the code? What's in the code? What's in the code? JavaScript. So you can run this as many times as you want and keep putting in. So I think I did just 9 by 9 in the example on the screen. So what's 9 squared? 81. So 9 rows, 9 columns. The last block should be 81. So how are we doing this? Well, we're being prompted to give columns, to give rows. It gives that answer in a var cols and var rows. And then it goes through and does a for while loop. And outputs out our table. So you can keep running that over and over again and keep putting in different amounts. You could do 9 by 9 like I did in this example, 6 by 4, whatever you so choose. There's a visual basically of what we just showed. The first prompt comes up, you put in your answer, you click OK or enter. The second prompt comes up, you put in your answer, click OK or enter, and then you get your table. So I don't remember, a couple weeks from now, when we do PHP and forums, I'm going to show you why people use PHP with forums. Basically, so your information doesn't get stolen, like your email, what have you. But if you copy the code from the notes in slide 58, you'll have a JavaScript form pop up. Nicole, does this work? So what happens when you click create? You will create this form. Like this. It gives like a drop down of like that. What should my user ID be? School ID. Okay. What should my password be? Password. And does it actually create it when you click create? All the data you entered is correct. Because all we're doing is validating it. With PHP, you can actually put it in and have it matter. So I'll show you guys how to return it to the screen, how to have it emailed to somebody, and I may even be nice to you guys and give you a nice little video of how you could put it up to a database. Like Damon and Kyle had Bill, and he probably doesn't even remember either of you. So now we're going to do an in-class exercise. You're going to create a pop-up message using an event, which is basically the mouse over we're going to use. Your JavaScript code will go inside an HTML file called welcome.html. You should create a message on your page such as hello. And when you hover over the message, a pop-up shows up with a different message such as hello and welcome to my site. So what did I have for my example? So mine is welcome to my house. And the scroll over, welcome to Professor Marino's page, homie. Did I spell homie right? So that is basically what you are doing right now. So the next, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. The next 4 slides after that, 60, 61, 62, 63 will help you set up in your WYSIWYG. So what did you notice with the style tag that's just like, or the script tag that's just like the style tag? Anybody? Anybody? Mark? Goes in the head section. I'm going to add some color to my blue. So you notice now it just says welcome. You scroll over, welcome to my webpage. So what you want to do is right here where it says ID hover, that's whatever is showing up on your screen. So I don't know, Patrick, give me an idea. Yeah, these other Patrick. Yeah, what should it say? Welcome to Marino's class. So now when I run, it shows welcome to Marino's class there. And every time I scroll over it, it gives me that little pop-up. Yeah, you put it in here.
Yeah. that's what I'm saying.
It's not gonna go to it because it's
No.
a mouse over. So a redirect would go to that site. Oh, for that, you don't need an href, because it's just a mouse over. All we're making is a little pop-up. And it's like mine where it's hard to see on your WYSIWYG. You could just save it in Notepad. I'll just call mine example.html. Then open it in your browser. Because I had mine, and you could change this if you want, set up to be centered. You could have yours on the left, right, whatever. So see that code there? Position fixed left top. That's basically centering it. Austin? Check if yours worked. Okay. What's your short name? Joseph AU. And what'd you name it? Jalen Hurts is that guy. Welcome to Austin Joseph's webpage. Eagles are 4-0. Only undefeated team in football. Unfortunately, they'll have that division won by Halloween and probably still be bounced the first week of the playoffs. I hate to say it, but that's what it looks like. How about those Lions? Who wants to play defense for them? Since it doesn't look like any of the paid players do. 48 points to the worst team in football. Although I was happy with fantasy yesterday. Melvin Gordon fumbled, they took him out. What's his name? Tore his knee up. And still, Gordon wasn't put back in. No, he had another carry. He went backwards a yard. He had an 8-yard carry. He fumbled. Then he had another carry. He lost a yard. So he got me negative 2.2 points. Thankfully, I had Mahomes and Mike Evans last night. And my opponent had the Tampa Bay defense. So I've already won with Debo still in tow. All right. Anybody else want me to check theirs? Dom, did you do yours? What is yours? Prinko dough? Prinko dough. Like that? Prinko dough. Hello, Jerry, hello. Welcome to my webpage. Giznick. How about them Cowgirls? Dak Prescott is the GOAT. I don't know about that. The team looks much better with Cooper Rush playing. He's undefeated as a starter in his career. That was something Yankee fans could say about Aaron Small for like 3 months. He was like 10-0. And then he realized he was Aaron Small and was out of baseball like 2 years later. You're hoping he turns around. I have a Tim Rattay jersey. Do you know who that is? So when Steve Young retired, the 49ers had this pretty good quarterback named Jeff Garcia, who was always sleeping around with like Playboy models and everything, even though everybody thought he was gay. And the coaches hated him, so they kept trying to play other quarterbacks, and one of them was Tim Rattay. It was like Alex Smith when Mike Martz took over. Oh, let's play JT O'Sullivan. Have you heard of JT O'Sullivan? Anybody? Exactly. You heard of him? He does? Okay. Rob, what team are you a fan of? Eagles? Yeah? I don't know. I think I just guessed. I don't want to lie and say, yeah, I remembered. So I'll be honest. What? Why? I think my Niners will go on a nice little winning streak here. Got the Rams tonight, then the Panthers and Falcons, who we could beat. You love that Brady got beat last night? They had some stat last night that playoff Lenny has played like 85% of the snaps through the first 3 games. So they had some rookie like playing most of the second half. They're like, oh, he can't play 20 games, 85% snaps. I was like, he didn't play the entire second half. I think the percentage will go down now. First time ever, 48-45 game. Because like I said, the Lions just decided, 2022, we're not going to play defense. Okay, so I think I have 1 slide left. All right, so yeah, remember, if you used your WYSIWYG, you copy it in a notepad, save it. You can always put your JavaScript code into a .js file and refer back to it. All right, so one last thing I want to touch on before everyone's skedaddles. So when you're submitting, hopefully this loads, when you're submitting your homeworks, make sure to have your link to your courses and the file. When we get to the PHP assignment, it's going to be important because I can't look at the source code or download your PHP because PHP is basically encrypted. You can't view the source on it. And I don't want to be going through and on WinSip looking through everybody's folders to look at it. Some of you are uploading it and I'll get like desktop dot, wherever it is on your file. But the thing I wanted to point out is inside today's folder is the project proposal rough draft. I don't think this is due until 23rd. So after our next class, you're going to have a JavaScript homework to do and the proposal rough draft. So keep that in mind. You have your, Labor Day, not Labor Day, Columbus Day off because of fall break next Monday and Tuesday. Rob, question? So you guys have the examples there on the blog. Remember, it's due the 23rd, but it's in today's folder. So I don't think it's in the 17th folder. No, so keep that in mind. All right, if there are no questions, I bid everyone adieu.